Selene Saxby.
Thank you, Ms McDonough. It's a pleasure to serve under your chair. And can I congratulate my colleague, the Honourable Member for Stroud, for securing today's important debate. So I have a specific project I wish to speak about today. I established and chair the All-Party Parliamentary Group for the Celtic Sea and have championed floating offshore wind, or FLOW, projects across the Celtic Sea, working collaboratively with developers, ports, MPs and associated businesses right round Devon, Cornwall and South Wales's coast. It is therefore a particularly difficult position I find myself and my constituents in with regards to the proposed Whitecross wind farm in my North Devon constituency. This project is 80 megawatts, so it's only a demonstrator project and has secured a distribution level grid connection at Yelland. Given its scale, it has avoided being a national infrastructure project, and decisions about its development now lie with the Marine Management Organisation under DEFRA and the local planning authority. The local community is hugely supportive of FLOW, and indeed, although there are some environmental concerns about the proposed 6 turbines, it is the cable corridor which is proving highly controversial. I have been expressing my own concerns about the proposed cable route ever since the project came to light. The route submitted to planning involves tunnelling through several miles of sand dunes, including a large seaside car park with holiday chalets in, a golf course and possibly a World War II munitions dump, and will take several years to construct. The quickest route to the plug-in point at Yelland is across Crow Point, a very active sand system and highly designated sand dune complex, but whilst potentially more environmentally contested, causing far less damage to the hospitality businesses and a constituency dependent on its tourism economy. No one has been able to explain to me who decided the cable corridor, and both the MMO and LA advise they have no influence and cannot comment on whether a better corridor might exist when considering the application. Whitecross is owned by Flotation, which has recently been taken over by Japanese company TEPCO. And as somebody in the industry observed last night, their website is a disgrace. There is no contact details for anyone within the company, just a generic reply section. They're poor and not acceptable. They are taking advantage of the consenting regime because they are under 100 megawatts. Compared to the work done on other projects, it is a joke. Other developers have fallen over themselves to engage with the APPG, which works cross-party and cross-government, but not Whitecross. I would like to put on the record my wish to meet with TEPCO and for them to explain why they are bulldozing their project through our community. One of the objectives of the Celtic Sea APPG has been to coordinate a more strategic approach to this new region of offshore renewables to avoid some of the cable issues seen on the East Coast. The APPG's preference throughout has been a single cable corridor to Devon and Cornwall and one to South Wales, established to reduce seafloor damage as well as cabling onshore as the bigger projects go out to sea. The project ready to bid for a contract is going to connect to Pembroke, and I know the cable corridor there has been well managed and landowners fully consulted. I have landowners threatened with CPOs, businesses not consulted or advised until the planning application was submitted. Council is completely at sea how to deal with this type of planning application. In addition, the project is now taking up almost the entire time of one planning officer in an area where planning is the biggest factor slowing down commercial development and building of the homes we so desperately need. And I'm hearing that the planning department apparently do not have any planning grounds to reject this application. Any support the Minister's team can provide to the Council and councillors on planning would be most welcome. Having spoken with the MMO, they also do not believe they have grounds to reject or the ability to challenge this application. It appears that the developer has been able to choose a cable route of their suiting without any agreement of the local community or the bodies that provide the planning and the leasing. My concerns are multiple. There are only 2 potential grid plug-ins along the northern Devon coast. These are vital national infrastructure resources at this time, Yelland and Alverdiscot. My understanding is that Yelland is smaller, but I have been unable to speak to National Grid ahead of today to clarify whether the Whitecross development will completely utilise the capacity at Yelland. The concern is it does not. My view and that of many in my constituency is that if we are going to have to endure this level of disruption to get a cable corridor installed on land, does it maximise the potential of the Yelland socket? There is growing concern that the developers have chosen a scale that avoids being a national infrastructure project and the scrutiny that would come with that, and this may mean that that socket is not optimised. I have asked previously of Whitecross why they could not work with the other projects in the region and consider Alverdiscot for their cable, and been advised it's too far and therefore too expensive. If a strategic view was taken of cable corridors, then it might be the case that the costs would reduce, and I do not believe this has even been considered. I recognise that Alva Discot itself has had concerns about the situation it finds itself in as a hub for plugging in huge renewable projects. And I do believe it is vital that communities that are asked to host this sort of infrastructure are properly compensated. Whitecross seems to have not offered any community reimbursement as recommended in the Nick Windsor Electricity Networks Commissioner report. Yes, of course I will.
She makes a very powerful speech, and I would totally agree with a lot of what she's saying. If she's talking about compensation, could she just maybe sort of explain what would be adequate compensation? Saxby.
Thank you, and I thank my honourable friend, but I was coming on to say, please do not think that this is a NIMBY issue. North Devon is home to the Fullerbrook Wind Farm, which when built was the largest onshore wind farm in the country, at 66 megawatt. Yet this project established Fullerbrook CIC, set up with £1 million for the then owners of the wind farm, which has now given over £1.58 million in community projects and receives £100,000 per annum from the current owners. I find it bewildering that Whitecross have seemingly made no offer of community involvement. Indeed, their only offer is to decimate huge sections of coastline for their own financial gain. I am gravely concerned that Whitecross are not acting in any way appropriately with this development and taking advantage of the planning system which they have chosen to use. I very strongly believe that the entire Celtic Sea Flow project should be considered as one, as a national infrastructure project, to enable proper strategic planning and ensure we do hit our offshore wind targets and that communities are included in these decisions and recompensed appropriately for hosting infrastructure. It is increasingly possible this development will undermine all the support which has been generated along this coastline for flow, with hundreds of objections being lodged and further meetings planned by local parishes in the coming weeks. It seems the developers have carte blanche. I ask as someone hugely supportive of the renewable opportunities ahead of us, as is my constituency, that steps are taken to find a way through this cross-departmental maze to have this development withdrawn in its current form, that a better plan for the cabling is devised, that the Yellen socket is optimised if used, and that the community are properly consulted and recompensed across Northern Devon for hosting this infrastructure. With energy security now so critical alongside reaching net zero, surely we can devise a better way to install just 6 wind turbines so we can more quickly progress with these crucial infrastructure projects with community support and transparency.
Priti Patel.
Thank you.